Hello and welcome back. So we're looking at the mind hacks for NLP. I want to ask you a first question. Let's begin with, have you ever noticed how here we go. Hold on. Do you know that person who always says things like, people are so selfish? I want you to realize, have you even noticed within yourself how they're often really the ones acting very selfish? It's not magic, it's not coincidence, but they're doing that all on their own. That's called projection in NLP. So your inner world, called perception, is coloring how you see the outer world, which is projection of things. So in NLP, we say this like, you don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. And it doesn't land very well with a lot of people, just to give you a heads up on that when you have clients. Your mind works like a projector. So whatever film is loading inside of your head, your beliefs, your values, your past experiences, your unresolved emotions or trauma, that's what you beam onto the screen of your life, which is a projection from your inner perception. So if you're like someone that carries mistrust or betrayal, it will seem to pop up everywhere for you, almost consistently. If you're carrying things like compassion, you'll notice kindness in the smallest gestures of people around you. It's not that the outside world has changed, it's that your inner world lens shifts in some direction of your view. So let's consider it this way for the visual learners, right? Think of it like wearing tinted glasses. If the lens is red, everything you look at seems red. The world didn't really change, your filter did. So it's something within you. If you're an auditory person like myself and you're an auditory learner, if you ever had someone say something to you that is maybe even neutral, but you heard it as criticism, that's your inner dialogue. That's how you're coloring their words into meanings for yourself. So if your inner dialogue is already harsh, you'll hear harshness in others, even when it's not even there, right? Being an auditory digital person. If you're a kinesthetic learner, so someone that's likes the touchy-feely sort of things, you walk into a room and then instantly you feel tension. Often that's not just the room that you're in, it's just what you decided to bring in that room, which amplified back to you. Just let that land for a second. Kinesthetic people think sometimes that they're feeling everything around them, but really sometimes not only could it be from trauma of hypervigilance, but could be in a projection of the world, which is perceiving outwardly, and then you're having that reverse effect. So I once had a client who believed like everything at work was against him, literally everything. There was no excuse. It was just one belief system, one way thinking. When him and I dug a little bit more deeper than that, we realized they were holding back, or he was holding back help, avoiding conversations, confrontations, and he was always expecting something called rejection. He was always expecting rejection. Rejection is going to come my way. It was just this limiting belief that he was holding on to. The film that he was actually playing was mistrust. And surprise, surprise, of course, as you might know, it's exactly what the audience acted out like. Mistrust in the work field, right? It felt like a circus. The moment that he switched the reel of how he saw mistrust, choosing trust and openness, then people just began responding differently to him. They dealt with him different, not because the office suddenly changed, because it didn't. The atmosphere was still the same, but because he changed something within him. He changed the lens of how he saw the world. We shifted beyond that limitation and belief that he was holding on to and got him to perceive and project life in a different perspective. The next, you'll find sometimes people, they're judging themselves or someone. I want you to pause if next time you're someone that realizes you're in that judgment state, in that loop, okay, and ask yourself a small little simple question. If I'm the projector, so I'm projecting, right? What's the reel that I am playing in this very moment? Like right now, what is that reel that I am playing? And this is the interesting part. Here's the gift. You can swap that reel anytime you choose to, anytime. You can change the film inside your head. The entire story outside then transforms within it. That's literally what happens. It's the neuroplasticity of the mind and how it can exercise change just by thought alone. And these are things that Dr. Joe Dispenza says all the time. So it's not just at work and these things sort of happen. I remember having I had a client who was so convinced, like utterly convinced, came really strong with this belief that their partner never listened to them. And I'm being real. I'm actually being very real. They really believed that their partner never listened to them. But as her and I dug a little bit more deeper, we found they were so busy rehearsing their own response inside their head. So that inner perception projecting outwardly. And so she had a belief they weren't listening. But the truth is, just let that land for a second. Was she really listening? No. So it wasn't that they weren't really listening on the outside. She wasn't even listening to what's happening on the outside. So that belief system was running into a loop pattern. And that just kept going on and on and on. The real wasn't I'm unheard. It was just I'm not listening. That's it. Once we were able to swap that I'm unheard to I'm not actually listening, that film turned into curiosity. The whole dynamic of the relationship and even other relationships outside of that dynamic began to shift and change for her. And this happens all the time. Perception and projection. Projection is perception, right? If you've studied NLP and you'll know this, right, as projection. But here's the trap as an NLP practitioner as well. Even when we know it intellectually, because there's two separate minds, the emotional mind and the intellect mind, we can still run the old programs at an unconscious level. It's very subtle, but it shows up in our everyday practices and how we read the world and how we perceive the world. So I'm going to give you a little simple tip on how to overcome this, to do this with yourself or to do it with your client. Whether you're working on yourself, obviously, or guiding a client along the journey, it's a nice refresher. So there's just 4 steps. Step 1, notice the judgment. So that's self-awareness, right? The moment you catch yourself thinking they're so blah, 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 whatever it might be, I want you just to pause there. That's it. Don't do anything less, anything more. Just awareness and pause. Step 2, turn it inwardly. So it's a projection outward coming in. Turn it all the way back inward into that perception within yourself. Prior to the projection, now that you can notice it and see it, and ask, where in me does this live? When have I acted like this before, even in a very small way? It's very intimidating at first. It's very uncomfortable at first, but that's where growth is, right? Step 3, reframe with choice, meaning ask yourself or your client, is this how I want to keep seeing the world? Or what would I prefer to notice instead? So is this how I want to see the world in this view? Or what do I want or prefer to notice instead? So you're just getting that person to shift from one side to a different direction, very gently. Step 4, you want to install the shift. So you want to download it because the reel is already uploaded and it's running a certain program from the unconscious. Now you want to notice it, you want to have that awareness, you want to shift the dynamic, and now you want to install something different. So you notice the old film. So you see through that awareness, that projection, what was going on, and then perceiving it from inner world, right? Then it's similar to the swish pattern, but slightly different. You see the old film inside your head and you turn it into a small, dark, fading away film. Now, once you do something like that, once you do something like that, you load up the new reel. So it becomes very bright, very close, very bold, and quite vivid because it gets really close into your body. You see it, you hear it, you feel it, because, we've got all sorts of people. There's auditory, kinesthetic. You've got people that are visual. And so you want to really amplify in every direction. They might be running a few processes, the way that they shift their eyes and sensory acuity. So it's really important to see it, to hear it, to feel it, to bring this to their awareness. And then when you're doing that, what is really happening in the background is you're beginning to rewire the lens inside their mind. So that inner perception that's projecting outwardly, that they're perceiving is being projected towards them. So the real mastering this whole thing comes from catching it in the very moment, right at the beginning, to have that heightened awareness and choosing which reel that you will load instead. So the more often, obviously, you would know you do this, the more natural it becomes. It's like brushing your teeth. Do you wake up in the morning and you have a program and it says, I'm brushing my teeth today and I'm putting this amount of toothpaste? Probably not. Somebody installed that program in you when you were growing up. And if it wasn't installed somewhere along your timeline, you installed that program. At the beginning, you had to think of it, become really aware of it and attune with it until it became a habit, turned into just a living style of personality or behavior, something that you do. Now you don't think about it. You just wake up and the first thing you do is you grab the toothbrush, you put the toothpaste, and off you go. It's the same with this. Perception is projection. So the more you become more aware of yourself and your language and perceptions and feelings and emotions, visually, auditory, kinesthetically, it doesn't really matter. However your model of the world is and how it's been running. The more you become aware, the more you catch it on early. The more you catch it on early, the more you run it and you do it and you run this program, what tends to happen in the future, it will just automatically go into an autopilot mode and do it for you without you even consciously being aware of the unconscious. In these scenarios, judgments that you have within yourself or from the outer world turns into something called awareness. So then the projection becomes a choice. Almost like if you look at the video that I had, cause and effect, you're becoming the cause of every effect, right? Similar to that, but from your inner world. Instead of the world reflecting back into your own shadows, it starts reflecting back your inner strength, which is that perception now you're projecting outwardly. So just let that land for a moment. And if it did really land with you, that's a great thing. It means there's something within your mind right now has clicked like that. The neural pathways are sinking in. Something's starting to make sense. And if it sounds like, as I always say, hocus pocus or voodoo stuff, then your mind is still scattered, but it's still bringing in the information. You've got two choices with this information that you just learned, or it's a refresher for you. You can keep running the same old film and wonder, well, why the story never really changed. Or you can start swapping that reel that's been running inside of you consciously, deliberately, intentionally, and then watch your world shift around again. If you want more ways to do that and you want to see different strategies, I want you to continue to follow this page. Just click subscribe. It's quite easy. And I've got so much more information around NLP coming up. And each one will give you a new reel to play within yourself or with your client. As you know, something I like to say, from my heart to yours, I hope this landed. I hope this helped. And I hope it brings you some enlightenment in your work.